it's not just the right that does this, because I've known a lot of, elite Northeast establishment liberals that may not use this as a business model, but deep down, when they look at a guy like me, they see a guy automatically who belongs in the second tier and not the top tier. And
why do you say that? Give me an example. Because you're a Cuban American.
I had a guy who works here at CNN, who's a top brass, come to me one day and say, "You know what? I don't want you.
Can you wash this dish?
I don't want you. No. It was. See, that's the thing. It's more subtle, and white folks usually don't see it, but we do. Okay, those of us who are minorities, and women see it sometimes too, from men in authority. Here, I'll give you my example. It's this. You know what? I don't want you anchoring anymore. I really don't see you as an anchor. I see you more as a reporter. I see you more as a John Quinones. You know, the guy on ABC? That's what he told me. He told me he saw me as John Quinones. Now, did he not realize that he was telling me, when I see you, I think of Hispanic reporters? Because in his mind, I can't be an anchor. An anchor's what you give the high-profile white guys, you know? So he knocks me down to that and compares me to that. And it happens all the time. I think to a certain extent, Jon Stewart and Colbert are the same way. I think Jon Stewart's a bigot. I think Jon Stewart's a bigot.
Hold on. Now we're going to get into it. Jon Stewart, my old boss, my friend.
Yeah, I think he's a bigot.
How is he a bigot?
I think he looks at the world through his mom, who was a school teacher, and his dad, who was a physicist or something like that. Great. I'm so happy that he grew up in a suburban, middle-class New Jersey home with everything that you could ever imagine.
What group is he bigoted towards?
Everybody else who's not like him. Look at his show. I mean, what does he surround himself with?
But listen, he picks on Jews all the time. He's a Jew.
Yeah.
He focuses on them. I think he overcompensates to some extent. I always noticed that.
Yeah.
He goes after himself.
Well, by the way,
and people like him and everybody else. I distree with you, and I defy you to give me a specific example.
Let me give you an example of what I mean about that. By the way, I don't necessarily think
pretty strong words calling Jon Stewart a bigot. Calling anybody a bigot. Give me an example.
Well, that's what happens when you watch yourself on his show every day, and all they ever do is call you stupid. You see,
well, if he's bigoted against the ignorant, fine. If he's bigoted against the apathetic and he's being elitist, saying that others are stupid, but what group specifically? Call someone a bigot against who?
Anybody who's different than you are. Anybody who's not from your frame of reference. Anybody who doesn't look and sound exactly like the people that you sound and grew up with. The people that you put on your show who always reflect somebody who's I'm bringing in to sit around me, you know, who's very different from me. I mean, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy this thing that the only people out there who are prejudiced, all right, the only people out there who are prejudiced are the right. There's people who are prejudiced on both sides.
But you're not giving me a specific example. You're saying he's bigoted towards people who aren't like him. His guests come from he has the most right-wing.
I think.
Don't you point your Sharpie at me, Sanchez. Don't you take your Sharpie out.
I think Jon's show is essentially prejudicial. I think that Jon's show
against who?
Against anybody who doesn't agree with his point of view, which is very much a white liberal establishment point of view. He can't relate to a guy like me. He can't relate to a guy whose dad worked all his life. He can't relate to somebody who grew up poor.
He can't relate
to somebody.
Whoa.
No, he can't.
He's a stand-up comedian.
No, he's not. According to Time Magazine, he's the guy that most Americans trust for news.
Whatever. He's a stand-up comedian.
But it's not whatever.
No, it's not. You just said he can't relate to people like you. Rick, hold on. Rick, I'm a stand-up comedian. I've been a stand-up comedian for 15 years. It's a really, really difficult job. It's filled with failure. It's filled with travel. It's filled with hard work. We might not be out there doing, physical labor and like your dad did, but I don't think it's fair to define.
No. You're right.
Very hard.
You're right.
I'm telling you, he puts in 12 hours a day on that show.
You're right.
And his staff respects him, and I don't agree with that.
You're right.
I don't know his parents.
You're right. I'm not saying.
I worked for him.
No, wait. You've misunderstood me. I'm not saying that he doesn't.
He can't relate to people who work hard.
No, he can't relate to what I grew up with. Absolutely
that's not fair. But that's not fair to say because he didn't have your life experience. He's not somehow on your level. It's not his fault. We can't just say.
No, it's that he looks at me as not being on his level. Yeah,
I think you're holding a grudge because he picked on you.
I'm telling you.
Didn't you fire a bomb at Colbert last week?
I can't remember.
Didn't you take a shot at Colbert? You guys are crazy.
I must have at some point. But yeah, look, my point is very simple. I see stuff O'Reilly and Glenn Beck do, and I say, wow. That's very discriminatory. That's very prejudicial. And I look at stuff that Colbert and Jon Stewart do, and I think, wow, that's very prejudicial. So, you know, we have a tendency to only look at one side. I'm saying we ought to be able to look at both sides. Well, that's all I'm saying.
I certainly agree with that, but here...
So if we're going to call one side bigoted, we probably got to look at the other side and say the same thing.
I'd be careful with the word bigot. I'd be careful
I'll take the word bigot back. I'll say prejudicial.
Look at what I did here.
Uninformed. Because Mark Twain said that you don't really become a man until you've had a child, planted a tree, and written a book. And that stuck with me a long, long time ago, and I've always wanted to write a book. And because I'm not...
And because you know you could sell it on your TV show.
Wait, let me get back to the Jon Stewart thing. You ready?
You've said enough.
Here's my point. Wait, I'm not done.
Rick Sanchez calls Jon Stewart a bigot. It's going viral.
Okay, it's not bigot. It's prejudicial.
But
prejudicial. Here's the other point about that. Now, what the hell was I going to say? I was going to talk.
You said you want to go back to Jon Stewart.
I have a lot to say, and I think I have a lot to say because of my life experiences, because of what I've done in my life, because of the way I've grown up, because of my failures, because of my successes, all of that. And when you turn on a show or listen to someone's writings and they minimize you and treat you like you don't matter, like you're just a dumb, like you're a dumb jock or a dumb woman or a dumb Puerto Rican or a dumb Cuban or another dumb Mexican, which is the way I feel whenever I watch Jon Stewart. I can't help but say, and you just asked me why I wrote this book. I wrote this book because I want people to know that I don't just sit there and read the teleprompter. Now, here's my second point on that. If I did just sit there and read
the book is written on a teleprompter.
If I did, shut up. If I did just sit there and read the teleprompter every day, Jon Stewart would never say anything about me. He'd say I'm a good Hispanic anchor. Way to go! You've done a good job.
But you know
Stay right there.
I'm fine.
I don't like that.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't like it if someone made fun of me or discouraged or was.
No, make fun of me. But I am a complex human being. I'm not some moron to be.
Why are you being so sensitive? Why do you?
Because I'm tired of it.
Yeah, but he's an entertainer. But
no, he's not.
Rick, you're going to tell me right now that The Daily Show has not been extremely important in our conversation. You're going to tell me The Daily Show hasn't literally made news pointing out hypocrisy when Democrats and Republicans...
Yeah, that's my other problem with them. Here's what they do. This is the game they play. I just picked on Fox News because they just had a bold-faced lie about something. So, damn it, that means I got to find something on CNN. Oh, I know. Wait, let me finish. Wait, hold on. Let me find, that Rick Sanchez, the little Puerto Rican guy. I'll make fun of him. Do you have anything? Yeah, last week he mispronounced the word indubitably or whatever. Yeah, that's it. Find me that, and we'll do a whole 4-minute segment on how stupid he is because he can't pronounce the word arithmetic.
Rick, you know
they do that.
They do
it's wrong.
But they do it.
They try and take two. It's just what you said that you shouldn't do. When you should call things as they are. You shouldn't have somebody.
Comedian.
No, he's not a comedian.
Of course he is.
That's a cop-out. He's not just a comedian. Time magazine says more people get their news from that guy than anybody else.
Because he makes a good job.
He can make and break careers.
Because they're actually. He can't. Whose career is he broken?
I don't.
Whose career is he broken? Jim Cramer's. He destroyed Jim Cramer's. Jim Cramer hurting?
I don't know. How's Jim Cramer doing these days?
He's still the flagship at CNBC.
Well, I just don't like dishonesty. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
Hold on a second. You're talking about, he calls me whatever Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
If you chart how many times he's picked on Latinos versus how many times he's picked on the population he comes from.
He wouldn't pick on me if I didn't matter.
He
wouldn't pick if I was
he didn't matter.
If I was just the Hispanic guy who read the news at CNN and paid attention and just read the teleprompter every day very carefully and never said anything, never had a personality. Then I'd be fine. He wouldn't pick on me. He's upset that someone of my ilk is at almost his level. I'm sorry. That's my impression. Why would a guy constantly berate you night in and night out like the way
you're an easy target. He does it with everybody, but he doesn't do it.
What is it about me that makes me an easy target?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think I do.
Which you think it has to do with your ethnicity?
I think he is one of those left-wing elite Northeast establishment guys who said he didn't want me to be an anchor. He wanted me to be a reporter because when he looks at me, he thinks of other Hispanic reporters like John Quinones.
You think that's a conscious thing that Stewart and left-wing liberals or whatever do?
No, I don't.
Because he's on the same side as you on immigration.
No, I don't. I don't think it's a conscious thing.
But he's on the same side.
I just gave you your answer. I don't think it's a conscious thing.
And then I didn't listen and went further.
Exactly. I just think it's important that people who are not minorities understand that those of us who are, and very few of us will say the things that I've just said, are actually more complex than they think we are, and we get
Stewart's
them.
a minority, as much as you are.
He come on. How is he a minority? Yeah. Yeah.
Rick.
Very powerless people.
Whoa.
But you're such a minority. I mean, you know, please. What are you kidding?
You're telling me that
I'm telling you that everybody who runs CNN is a lot like Stewart, and a lot of people who run all the other networks are a lot like Stewart. And to imply that somehow the people in this country who are Jewish, are an oppressed minority, yeah,
they have a history of oppression. No
question about that.
They can't relate to that.
I grew up in Miami. Every one of my best friends was Jewish. What are you talking about?
They can't relate to that. A Jewish person doesn't always have a constant fear in the back of their head. That
I think his father could. I think his father could.
I think every Jewish person feels that way.
I hope so.
Of all the Jewish people I talk to, I have a good buddy of mine. He was so paranoid about this whole mosque thing, because it is, and you hear Bloomberg and other Jews coming out and defending it because it's, when are they coming for us again?
Yeah.
So I disagree with you. I'm not Jewish and I'm not Puerto Rican. I have had every privilege.
But hold on a minute.
It's not easy being bald.
Just because someone's Jewish, they're not capable of being prejudicial? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. I'm saying just because...
Because if that's your only defense...
No, I'm saying Jewish people can relate to oppression.
I just don't think... I'm not... When I say that about like someone like Jon Stewart, somebody way out to the left, that they can be prejudicial... I'm not saying it has anything to the fact that they're Jewish or not Jewish, first of all. I mean, you brought the whole Jewish conversation into this. I don't think Jewish has anything to do with this. I don't think you're less apt to be prejudiced or more apt to be prejudiced because you are Jewish.
I brought it in because you brought in your ethnicity.
I'm talking about our differences in the way we grew up in our lives. Yes, I grew up not speaking English, dealing with real prejudice every day as a kid, watching my dad work in a factory, wash dishes, drive a truck, get spit on. I've been told that I can't do certain things in life simply because I was a Hispanic. My friends who are black, I've seen that with them. I've seen that with a lot of minorities. I can't really think, although I understand the plight of Jews and all the experiences and the things that have happened historically for them, but I can't say that my buddy Glenn or my buddy Izzy, who I grew up with in South Florida, ever were prejudiced against directly simply because they were Jewish. There may have been jokes around them or about other things, but it's kind of, you know what I'm saying?
No,
it's kind of a little different thing.
I don't, and I'll tell you why I don't.
I can't see somebody not getting a job somewhere because they're Jewish. Not in this day and age.
Well, then you've never been to Nebraska. But I'll tell you why I don't relate to that. I'll tell you why I don't.
You know, it's actually a good point.
I'm not going to sit here. But you've been sheltered in where you grew up, and you now work and live in the. I mean, listen, Rick Sanchez can't walk down the street anymore, so you know you got a chip on your shoulder, and I'm not blaming you for it, but you've done pretty well, and the fact this has been, by the way, it wasn't given to me. It certainly wasn't, and no one is implying that. No one is implying that. But I'll tell you. Let me just say something quickly as an aside. I thought this was going to be 15 minutes, me and you. Yeah. And I haven't heard anything from my producer. But we don't do commercials here, which is awesome. but it's been a great conversation. It's really been really cool getting to know you. But I'm just saying, I'm transparent and I'm real, and that's all. I hope you haven't taken anything. I appreciate your honesty, and I think in context it'll be interesting to see if Stewart ever responds to this. But I hope he does. But I have you ever laid into him like this anywhere? Just on the air lately. But I don't respect the guy. My point is, I don't relate to blacks, Hispanics, Jews, gays, anything. I am a white American, and I have never dealt with any of that. I mean, kind of relate a little bit. Which is kind of like my point, though, Pete. There's too many people out there who never... But that doesn't mean... Walk in my shoes for a day. But that doesn't mean I can't make fun of it. I'm a comedian. Yeah. I have to make fun of stereotypes. I think I come out on the right side of the jokes. But if... if I can't make jokes, if I can't take shots at people for the sake of comedy, and And I'm not, you know, I'm wrong when I say, I was wrong when earlier I said he's just a comedian. He is a newsman to some extent. I agree with you. I was wrong about that. But I mean, in essence, that's what we do. And I'm defending Stewart more from a comedian's point of view.
That.
We don't think.
I get that. And for all I know, his stuff, he doesn't even write. I mean, he could be his staff who doesn't like me.
No, listen, you know. I know his staff. He's got a pretty diverse staff. But I don't know if there's any Hispanic writers, to be fair and honest. But anyway, just as a comedian, I want to tell you something, because I think this might help. It might not. You might not give a rat's ass. We don't think very much about people's feelings. We think about being funny. I can't tell you how many nights I've been driving away from a gig going, you know what? That probably wasn't right. And mine were even worse, because I'll take a specific thing in the room. Some woman won't shut up. And I'm not talking about her race. I'm talking about, you are the most annoying woman I've ever met in my life. And I really lay into her for a joke. We lower others to raise ourselves. That's how we make a living. And we're not thinking, I'm certainly not thinking about Rick Sanchez, who's got 4 hours on CNN every day's feelings. If I'm Jon Stewart, I'm not speaking for Jon.
Or his kids or anybody else.
No,
well, you should. You should. I do in my job. Every time I have to tell a story about somebody, the first thing I ask myself is, how would I like it if somebody said this about me? That's the first thing that I ask. I don't see that when I watch Colbert or Jon Stewart. They just skewer people mercilessly. And they don't give a damn. And they walk away. And you know what? If they were just comedians, it would be great. But unfortunately, their show has transcended comedy. It is now more important than Walter Cronkite. So it's like we're living in a generation where Walter Cronkite's out there cracking on people.
Is that because you guys aren't doing your job well enough?
Probably.
Okay. Rick, I got to go because I got to take a moment here, but I really enjoyed getting to know you. I mean, I really do. And I appreciate your honesty, and I think you're really ballsy, man. I really do. I respect it. Yeah. I do. I have a newfound respect for you.
I like being real and transparent.
You turn on the TV, and it pours information into your ear, and it's sound bites. And, you know, I'm not trying to hurt Rick's list. I'm not trying to hurt CNN. We get a paycheck from them. But people...
Yeah, and we can't give you everything in a 30-second story. I mean, sometimes we have to decide, we're going to do 40 stories in this hour, and one of them has to be the 30-second story. You think I'm going to give you everything in those 30 seconds? I mean, we work hard to give you as much information as we can, but there's so much nuance out there that most people don't take in, don't listen to, don't understand. And it is important to know these things. Look, I mean, just know who's giving, if nothing else, know who's giving you the information. Yeah. Fox News, for example. And I talk about this in Conventional Idiocy. Why does Fox News deliver the message that it does? Because it's a business model. It is a business model. The business model is very simple. There's a bunch of angry white guys out there. So we need to program to them. And the angrier we get them, the more viewers we'll have. And they were already angry to begin with, so we'll give them even a little more nudging. Like, we'll make sure we have at least 3 stories in every O'Reilly Factor that involves black teenagers who are in a hip-hop band with their underwear sticking out of their pants. Because if we do that, we'll get them angrier and they'll watch more often. Yeah. We'll do another story on a Hispanic somewhere who got into an accident or beat up some white guy's daughter. See, these stories don't appear by magic. They're there for a purpose.
Why do Hispanics beat up white guys' daughters exclusively?
I don't know. It's a passion
but you're
thing.
right. But here's my question, because you've been in television for a long time, and you know, and I want to maintain my integrity when I ask this question, and I know it might sound a conflict of interest for me, being on TV and getting even deeper into TV. But listen, CNN we don't do as well as Fox in the ratings, but the reason they do so well is because of the reasons you just gave, the race baiting, the
it's a great business model.
Right. But politicians are no different, because politicians say things, buzzwords, to get elected. So television does things to get ratings. Politicians say things to get elected. Your show has an element of entertainment. You have to cover some things that aren't changing the world, a car chase, at this and at that. How much do you have to compromise and do things that, while they're fun and they're entertaining, they're not changing, they're not having an impact, they're not making us smarter?
It's all about a very simple question that you usually learn from your parents if you have good parents. Be fair, and always make sure that whenever you say or do something about someone, ask yourself if that's what you'd want said or done about you. It's very simple. I mean, bottom line is, Sure, we do everything we can to get the viewers to watch. And if there's a great video out there of something that has that lean-in factor, we're going to use it. But that's different from coming out there and saying, you know what, we're going to make sure we do only the stories that make white men angry, because that way, at the expense of the other demographics. If it makes black people look lazy, so what? We'll get more white people to watch. If it makes Hispanic looks like they're all a bunch of freeloaders, so what? Even if it's not true, we'll get more white people to watch. I think to a certain extent, Jon Stewart and Colbert are the same way. I think Jon Stewart's a bigot. I think he looks...
Jon Stewart's a bigot. Hold on. Now we're going to get into it. Jon Stewart, my old boss, my friend.
Yeah, I think he's a bigot.
How is he a bigot?
I think he looks at the world through... his mom, who was a school teacher, and his dad, who was a physicist or something like that. Great. I'm so happy that he grew up in a suburban, middle-class New Jersey home with everything that you could ever imagine.
What group is he bigoted towards?
Everybody else who's not like him. Look at his show. I mean, what does he surround himself with?
But listen, he picks on Jews all the time. He's a Jew.
Yeah.
He focuses on them. I think he overcompensates to some extent. I always noticed that.
Yeah.
He goes after Sanchez.
I don't want you to know. No, it was. See, that's the thing. It's more subtle. And white folks usually don't see it, but we do, okay? Those of us who are minorities. And women see it sometimes, too, from men in authority. Here, I'll give you my example. It's this. You know what? I don't want you anchoring anymore. I really don't see you as an anchor. I see you more as a reporter. I see you more as a John Quinones. You know, the guy on ABC? That's what he told me. He told me he saw me as John Quinones. Now, did he not realize that he was telling me, when I see you, I think of Hispanic reporters? Because in his mind, I can't be an anchor. An anchor's what you give the high-profile white guys, you know? So he knocks me down to that and compares me to that. And it happens all the time. It's not just the right that does this, because I've known a lot of, you know, elite Northeast establishment liberals that may not use this as a business model, but deep down, when they look at a guy like me, they see a guy automatically who belongs in the second tier and not the top tier. And
why do you say that? Give me an example. Because you're a Cuban American.
I had a guy who works here at CNN, who's a top brass, come to me one day and say, you know what? I don't want you
watch this
very different from me. I mean, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy this thing that the only people out there who are prejudiced, all right? The only people out there who are prejudiced are the right. There's people who are prejudiced on both sides.
But you're not giving me a specific example. You're saying he's bigoted towards people who aren't like him. His guests come from he has the most right-wing...
I think...
Don't you point your Sharpie at me, Sanchez. Don't you take your Sharpie out.
I think Jon's show is essentially prejudicial. I think that Jon's show
against who?
Against anybody who doesn't agree with his point of view, which is very much a white liberal establishment point of view. He can't relate to a guy like me. He can't relate to a guy whose dad
himself.
Well, by the way,
people like him and everybody else. I disagree with you, and I defy you to give me a specific example.
Let me give you an example of what I mean about that. By the way, I don't necessarily think
pretty strong words calling Jon Stewart a bigot. Calling anybody a bigot. Give me an example.
Well, that's what happens when you watch yourself on his show every day, and all they ever do is call you stupid. You see,
well, if he's bigoted against the ignorant, fine. If he's bigoted against the apathetic, and he's being elitist, saying that others are stupid, but what group specifically? Call someone a bigot against who?
Anybody who's different than you are. Anybody who's not from your frame of reference. Anybody who doesn't look and sound exactly like the people that you sound and grew up with. The people that you put on your show who always reflect somebody who's I'm bringing in to sit around me, you know, who's